Hi guys, it's Sidewinder back with another War Thunder video. Today we're taking out KV2, or I'm sorry, KV1. Alright, so I'm a little mad. The first part of this video did not save. So you're actually watching me shortly after I respawned in another KV1. So, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this part, yeah, I'm not mistaken, we completely missed the part where I one-shot Churchill with the KV1 right through the machine gun port, but oh well. So, let's talk about the KV1. Alright, so KV stands for, like, Clement Voloshyikov, something like that. So, it was made in the 30s, and as a heavy tank. They were slow, but they're okay, you know? They had a 76mm gun, not like something crazy like what's on the 76 Shermans or the Firefly or anything like that. But this 76, on this one that I'm using, isn't that good, but on the one I just got done using is pretty awesome. So, at the beginning of World War II, the Germans had absolutely nothing that could take out this tank. Well, I should say absolutely nothing of a tank that could take it out, because this is before they had the Tigers, but they did have the 88. So they could use that, but they didn't have like a Tiger or like even they didn't have the Panzer IV Special, the Panzer IV F2, you know? They didn't have tanks like that. They didn't have the Stug F. They didn't have, you know. So the Germans were trying to fight this tank with Panzer IIs. Early model Panzer IIIs and early model Panzer IVs, which they could hit, they could detrack it, they could whatever to it, but they never really could knock them out. So a lot of times they ended up just knocking them out or waiting for them to like get stuck or something in battle before they attack them. Like, a lot of times, they'd actually have to just send infantry to take them out, because, you know, like, hop up on top and get down inside, throw, like, a grenade or something down, and knock it out that way. Because they didn't have an anti-tank gun that could really knock it out. So, the KV-1 and the KV-2 over there, they're nice tanks. They're slow, but they have nice armor. And honestly, I think even though they're slow, even though they're boxy, they're kind of one of my favorite tanks to play, because they're just so easy to play. The KV-1 can one-shot everything up to tier 5. The KV-2, I should say. The KV-1 can't. So but in other words, the KVs, they're nice tanks. Like, oh, you see that? One shot of that thing. That was, oh, I can't even think. That was a Chaffee. KV series, well, it went to the KV-1, and then they had the KV-2, but they had a whole bunch of other KVs that never ended up being a thing. Like the SKM, that was a member of the KV family. So is the SU-100Y and stuff like that. But there was a tank called the KV-6 that it was a long tank. It never saw service, but it had like, I forget if it was 2 or 3 KV-1 turrets on it, a KV-2 turret that had 2 guns side by side, and on top of all those turrets, they had smaller turrets from smaller tanks on them, Plus they had a Katusha on one of the KV-1 turrets. So it was pretty much a beast. It was a land battleship. But they never used them because it was so long, the thing couldn't even turn. So, and if it could barely turn. But, yeah, I'm getting knocked out and I can't do anything about it. So, I can move, but I really can't do anything about it because my gun's out. But, that's why we have other tanks to spawn in. So, eventually, the Russians decided that they needed a bigger gun than the 76. Or not 7, yeah, the 76. That's on the KV-1s. Because KV-2s were kind of out, because they didn't make that many of them. So, they decided to make the IS-1s. But they didn't have enough time to build the IS-1 hull yet, but they could build the turrets. So, they made a whole bunch of IS-1 turrets, and they put them on a KV-1S hull. So that new KV ended up being called the KV-85. Now, personally, I prefer the KV-85 over the IS-1, and it's kind of weird to think about to say that, but at the same time, to me, it makes sense in my head, even though it doesn't at all. The KV-85, it's a shorter tank, it's a slower tank, but it's also boxier with a really round turret, so it doesn't look like they should be together, but they are. But that, I personally prefer that layout of the tank, and like, it sounds crazy, but I like the slower speed better than the IS-1. Like, the IS-1 and the early model IS-2, I don't like their hull. Like, the front of their hull is horrible, because you just have this, like, your driver sitting, and he's just surrounded in a round piece of metal. So, and there's ammo on either side of him. That is the biggest weak point on that the IS-1 and the IS-2, the early IS-2, not the 1944 model. So, that pretty much ruins that tank. The IS-2 makes up for it with that massive 122mm gun, but the IS-1, it doesn't. Because you can kill the IS-1 right from the front with a Sherman. I've done it multiple times. Just right through the driver's viewport. So, oh, there's another member of the KV family. The SU-152 has the same caliber gun as the KV-2, but the KV-2 has a howitzer. The SU-152 has an actual anti-tank gun. So, it's the better gun, but since it's so much lower, it doesn't actually end up working that way sometimes, but excellent. Oh well. The KV-2 is just kind of big. Like, I remember when I first started playing the War Thunder, the KV-2, it's actually a different tank than what it was then. They used to have it on the actual chassis that it had in real life. They had it on just a standard KV-1 chassis. But then they decided later on, I think because of the speed of it and the armor of it, that they're going to put it on a KV-1S, I think, for balancing. The KV-1S chassis doesn't have a machine gun port in the hull. It also has thinner armor, and since it has thinner armor, it makes the tank faster. So you have a slightly faster KV now, and like also slightly weaker hull armor. So it kind of balances it out more for fighting it. So they put it on the same hull as the KV-85 essentially, even though that wasn't what happened in real life, as far as I know. But all the pictures I've seen of real KV-1s, or not KV-1s, KV-2s, they have a standard KV hull. So, oh well. But the KVs are, like, they're not my favorite tanks, but they're some of the most fun tanks that you can play in War Thunder. That and the T-34s, like I'm driving right now. I'm driving a T-34 STZ. So it's basically a T-34 1941. Well, actually it's a 1942 hull with extra armor on it, but it has a T-34 1941 turret that has thicker armor on it. So, and flatter sides and stuff like that. So, really, I think the Russians, like, really experimented with their tanks during World War II. Like, say the Germans did too, but not to the extent as the Russians, I don't think. Like, or even, like, the American tanks, they didn't really experiment at all, because they kept the standard M4 Sherman in service until, like, the 50s. Like, just a regular Sherman chassis. Like, they took all the different chassis of the Shermans and they just upgraded them. Like, they just took the tank and said, oh yeah, we'll put a new turret on it with a new gun, or we'll put a new suspension system on it. Just stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Like the M4 Sherman A3 was, like, the most numerous and most modified version of the Sherman ever, because it had, like, they made the jumbos out of it, they did all that. But I'm getting off topic. The T-34 is pretty much one of the hallmarks of War Thunder. It's like at the T-34 76's tier, which is tier 2. I don't believe there's any at tier 3. It's probably, actually, yeah, as a tank itself, it's probably the best at tier 2. The best tank. It'll bounce, and I'm being 100% serious, this happened to me, using the 17-pounder British gun. This T-34 can bounce shots from point-blank range with a 17-pounder gun. Makes absolutely no sense when it happens, but it can. So, and the 17-pounder was a gun that would take out Tigers one shot. So, it's kind of okay. Like, the idea that, yeah, the T-34 can bounce a shell, but it doesn't make any sense when you're at, like, less than 50 feet away and it'll bounce a high-velocity round. But at the same time, that's great for you using a T-34. That means that you can go right in, fight, and do all that. But it just doesn't make any sense. But I think one of the biggest advantages that the T-34 has over, like, the Sherman, actually disadvantages, I should say, I don't know why I said advantages, is that it only has a 2-person turret. So it has a 4-man tank, has a 2-person turret. The Sherman is a 5-man tank, 3 people in the turret, and 2 down in the hull. Those 2 extra people, or those 1 less person, is a big thing. So, you gotta look out for that. But, that's pretty much the end of the video. We win pretty well. So, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a suggestion for whatever tank you want to see me drive next. And thank you guys. It wouldn't be possible without you guys. Bye.